Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I rank the U.S. basketball team card sets from the Dream Team all the way through the 2000 team. And so this is basically the 90s, but really after 2000 there was very little done for the U.S. basketball team. And that's because the team was all about the excitement of a particular era of sports. Without getting too in depth about it, the Dream Team was an unusually well-timed team, and everybody got really excited about it, in large part because of the big three: Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and Magic Johnson. The three of those names were so dominant that everybody was really excited about it. In 1994, the subsequent team was called Dream Team 2, but it was starting to give you that feeling of, okay, well, there are special teams for the Olympics, and then outside of that, maybe not so exciting. And so by 1996, we had a team that arguably was a better team than the Dream Team in terms of a team, but in terms of star power, the Dream Team was a better team. So it was weird because the team was now forming into an ideal team, and it was kind of the symbol of the way we would expect for U.S. teams to operate down the road. Still the best players in the world. Only by the year 2000, it wasn't the best players in the world. I mean, okay, Kobe had not yet ascended, but still, I mean, you're talking about KG and Jason Kidd, and this was no slouch team, but it was a major drop off. There was this weird feeling of, wait, this is the best we've got. It just didn't have the luster of what we'd had in the past. And so by the year 2004, the enthusiasm about Olympic basketball teams, was very much in the background because, well, among other things, the teams just weren't rising to the level of what the Dream Team and the 96 team had been. And you might notice I skipped over 1998 because, well, nobody cared, at least in terms of cards. But also in the new millennium, it just wasn't a good time for USA basketball teams. So that means that really that is a phenomenon of the 90s. And yes, we have had cards in the new millennium about the US teams, but really in the 90s, that was the core. And so it gives us a really good focused area of the essentially 10 sets to look at in this ranking. And so that's what I'm looking at. And interestingly, the bottom of the list is the two bookend sets, starting right off at number 10 with the Dream Team set by Skybox, because my word, I mean, this is such an incredibly lackluster card, truly. Now, what they were doing was they were practicing for their upcoming Skybox Impact set in football, which was actually a really good card. Not a great card, but a really good one because they had really strong, well-selected images, easier to do in football, and that bold text up at the top. But when you shift back over to the Dream Team card, well, it's lackluster. There's almost nothing to this card. There's, some text up at the top. There is a US Dream Team logo down at the bottom, but okay. The biggest problem this card set has is this is about the Olympic team, and there are literally no Olympic jerseys. I mean, they didn't even bother with jerseys from the appearances of, Michael Jordan and David Robinson in past Olympics. They didn't bother with that at all. So this is a set that's looking at NBA players who happen to be on the Dream Team, but it's just NBA players. The images aren't all that special. There's no design to the card. It's just kind of there. This is a card set where I have always looked at it and gone, why did they bother? That's the nature of the set. But just because there's no design, that's not the only thing that makes a bad card, because if you jump over to the other bookend, the year 2000 top set, well, this is the exact opposite, where they did too much. These cards are so over-designed. I mean, they really do look like the kind of thing where a beginner working with Photoshop has a bunch of stock images and they're just playing around with it. It really looks like they don't quite know what they're doing. There are 4 different designs in this set, and only one of those looks like a player card. The others are just these overly bold designs that don't work with the player in any way, and they don't work in terms of the set. Now, the set does have one great thing going for it, which is the fact that it's the men's team as well as the women's team, which makes each one of these series a lot bigger, and that's the only thing that saves the set. Because if it was just the men's team or even just the women's team, it would be just way too quick going from theme to theme to theme. But still, when you look at the set in binders, it's not interesting. When you look at the set in individual cards, it's not interesting. The card designs just come across as dumb. That's about all there is to it. So, yeah, it's and I'm not even getting into the cardstock. That plastic cardstock is really weird. So this was a card that I've always looked at and gone, well, why did they bother? Which, isn't that what I said about the Dream Team set? I think it was. So let's move on to number 8. We're finally getting into cards that at least look good. And for number 8, I have the 1996 Fleer set, which is, well, they did the same thing that I just talked about in the top set from 2000. In this case, wow, it's weird because they have 5 different themes. And each one of these themes, 3 of them are lenticular cards, and they are very different designs. There's one design that's phenomenal. It's the one card that I look at and I go, I want to move this up the list. There's another card that I look at and I go, yeah, it's okay, it's not bad. And then a third card where I go, yeah, I'm not a fan. But then there are the other 2 sets, and the other 2 sets look like inserts. I mean, they all look like inserts, but they don't look like great inserts. Only the Rings lenticular card, that's the only one that actually looks like a good insert. All the others look like they're second-rate inserts, kind of like a 1995 or 1994 Fleer Ultra insert. The set, it really does feel like a bunch of insert sets that are just kind of thrown together. There's no relationship between them, and almost nothing really stands out. So it's a card set that is a jumbled mess of things, which is very much in line with what Fleer had been doing up until this point. And it really is a shame because there's a lot of potential that the cards have. But if that's what I've got to say about it, that's a bad sign to go with. So moving on from there, I go to number 7 at the 1996 Skybox. And here is a very exquisitely designed card. I mean, it really looks fancy. It has a really good isolated shot of the player with a backdrop it's really cool. It's part of a whole collage of cards to make the Olympic rings. Only that's not what it is. These cards do not come together to make an Olympics rings image. Instead, it's just snippets of that theme, but it's just snippets. It's random. Whenever I look at this card, I immediately I am OCD, so I need to see how it ties across into the next card. I go to the next card, it's not the same design, and it's not a continuation. So it's this frantic mess of stuff where there's no consistency of the card set. Each card looks like it's supposed to be something else or doing something else. It is just amazing to me that whenever I look at this card, I don't understand why they approached it the way they did. It truly needs to be pieces of a puzzle. You have to do that. The Rubik's, what was that Rubik's thing where you fold out the panels? That's what this feels like it needs to be. So because it's not that, it always bothers me, and that's why I have it here at number 7. Number 6, I'm staying with 1996 Skybox, but I'm going with the weird set on this list, which is the Texaco set, which I'm going to go ahead. It was released in individual cards in packs, so it was pieced together. And it's a prominent enough card set, I felt that it works in this list. So the Texaco card is much better because it's a smooth, clean, consistent card. As you go through the set, all the cards look like this. The images of the players aren't as good because they're a lot smaller, and the design itself is a little bit busier than what we saw with the regular Skybox card, and so those are the drawbacks. But the strength, like I said, is the consistency. Every time I look at the card, I know what I'm looking at, it feels right, and it looks like a set. So even though it's not a great looking card, it's a better card. And that's what I have to say about the 1996 Skybox Texaco set at number 6. At number 5, however, I go with, well, it's still 1996. In fact, these are all grouped into the same years, almost all of them. The number 5 set is 1996 Upper Deck. And here we're finally getting into an actual good design with an actual fancy card layout where everything comes together. It even has that interesting feature at the bottom where it has the die cutting, so there's a scallop down at the bottom for the logo. It was a bold choice, and it's one that I've always been torn with because it makes it difficult to work with the cards. I have them in my 5,000 count box, which is actually right here. All the cards are upside down because if you have them right side up, they're tilted one side or the other. So if you turn them upside down so that the flat top is on the bottom, the cards sit correctly. It's a weird feature, and I love the idea of it, but working with it does get a little bit tedious, and the cards feel a bit smaller. But the cards are overly designed. That is the big problem these cards have. I do want to get more of a feeling of the player in some sort of an environment, even if the card design is what does that. But the cards are so simplistic that whenever I look at them, I go, well, they're really nice, but I'm really not that invested in them. I'm not that interested. The flag card at the end is kind of cool, but other than that, the cards, they are too polished. And that's unfortunate. I want to get some energy with these cards, especially with this team. So it is at number 5, so we are in the better area, but there's a big difference between the 96 men's sets and the 94 sets. And you can see that with Skybox. The 1994 Skybox card set has 3 different designs. It has a card at the front, has a couple of cards in the middle, and then it has a card at the end. And those groupings, they all have a different feel to them. The cards in the middle are pretty lackluster cards. They have a design feature that's good enough, but it's not very engaging. Again, these cards do show players in their regular NBA uniforms, so they don't have much of an Olympics feel to them. But the cards at the front and the back, those are different, especially the flag cards. Those truly, truly do look like Olympic cards, and I love the way that they look in this set. So if it was up to the front and back cards, then, well, actually, the reason I have it here is because of those cards, not because of the middle cards, because now I can't just go each individual design. I got to look at all of them in the set, and this is a case where it definitely gets raised by those cool cards. So I give them props for that. But the reason it's at number 4 is because over at number 3, Upper Deck did the same thing in 1994, but in this case, all the cards had a better look to them. They had a better finish, and right at the end of each set, or each team set, the card had a less flashy look to it, but when I look at all of them, they feel cohesive. Now, I will say the header card that has that marble stripe down the side is not my favorite card on the planet. It is a good card, but it's the one weak part of this. However, it is nice that it has kind of like a starting point and then everything folds out from it. When I get these cards together in a card page, they read a lot better. But each one of these cards is an above average card compared to Skybox. I love how that works for the set. But at number 2, I'm stepping over into a whole nother area, which is, well, this is the only card set that is in this area, which is the 1996 Topps women's basketball team set. And this is a card set that's not as big, it's not as flashy, it doesn't have parallels. It is about as stripped down and basic as you're going to get, but they did it so well. They have the white border of a Topps card, which is okay, that's not a problem. But inside they have that great flag. And that's it. That's all they did. It's like what they did in Skybox for the last card for each of the players. Except here it's a better looking flag. The player is a little bit disjointed, but still it comes across great. When you look at the card, you see her, you get excited about the series that she's going to have through the Olympics. It looks great. And then you have the other half of the set with the profiles cards, which just makes it even better. This is a card set that I've always been fascinated by because of the fact that nobody talks about this card set. Nobody collects this card set. It's just always kind of been there, and I think that it's the second best card set of all of these card sets. But number one is 1994 Flair. And this is where Flair actually worked incredibly well. The cards, I mean, all you needed to do was have the flag fading down from the top down into the background. And that's all you need to do to make these cards look great. I do wish the flag was stronger at the top of all of these cards so that when you get them in binders, you have more of the feeling of the flag as opposed to the images. But still, the way that that works makes these cards incredibly powerful. And throughout the card set, I do love looking at all of these cards where they do look different. They feel different. This is the way Flair was supposed to work. And they also, for every single player, had an eighth card that has a special design. And the special designs, there are 3 of them. And all 3 look really good. Now, the one at the end, which I think is for forwards, is kind of a weird tie-dye effect thing that's, I'm not exactly sure what it's supposed to do. The other 2 I really like. So whenever I look at these cards, whether it's the main set cards or this special card, this Olympic portrait card, whenever I look at any of these cards, I look at them and I just go, wow, Flair is amazing. Until I look at the other sets they did in 1994, and then I forget why I thought that Flair was amazing. But that U.S. basketball team card set, that's an impressive one. And I love that it actually has women's basketball players as a part of it as well. Pat Summitt and many of the players on the team. So that's just an added bonus. And even on the card back, the fact they have gold foil for the text is a bit much, but for these cards it worked. And so for me, that's the best card design of all of the U.S. basketball team card sets of the 90s through the year 2000, which is technically the decade of the 90s. So leave a comment down below about your take, where you feel that these cards should end up, and definitely check out. Right now, I'm doing videos on Olympics cards, so I've already done all of the USA basketball team videos. I've already done that. Those are in the can. They've been there for a while. So if you haven't checked those out, check them out. Check out the Olympics card sets that I'm doing videos of right now. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. And thank you very much for watching.